Welcome to your source for amplitude modulation on ham radio, the AM window.
Actually pretty easy to get into civil aviation now as a general aviation pilot. They've got a couple of new licenses now. They're not really new anymore. They've been around for a while now, but you can get a recreational certificate. And if you want to fly the little sportsman class, what do they call them? It's like a light sport. Yeah, that's the category. A light sport aircraft. They're called. No license required, just a driver's license, and away you go. And heck, the average guy solos in about 10 hours. About 10 hours of instruction, and you're ready to go flying.
Well, see, this might have been back, of course, when I had an interest in trying to do any kind of flying. I was back in, the Scouts, so this is probably 20 years ago. It seemed like unless you got into, the Scouts, which had their own program of getting, your license, it seemed like you had to have $10,000 or $15,000 to get yourself up off the ground. Of course, the biggest thing is having an aircraft to do it in, which is probably the biggest expense.
Oh my God, that's a lot of money, even today. Good golly. When I started flying seriously, I got instruction in a Cessna 150 for $24 an hour. I got the airplane and the instructor for $24 an hour, and it was $18 an hour solo. And that's wet. That includes the fuel. Man, that was a long time ago.
Oh yeah, helicopter. I'd love to do something with a helicopter. I mean, my day-to-day job, my moneymaker job, has nowhere near anything to do with the aviation industry. I work at a water plant. I make brown water, clear water. So, but I always loved the aspect of a helicopter. It would just, it would just be so cool for me to have even just a pilot's license or something like that to do anything in the aviation industry, which is crazy because my dad was regular old Army. It was always my mom's side, which was Air Force and Navy. Well, majority Navy, but my uncle and then his son, my cousin, is both Air Force. And it's just been one of those things. I'd love to have like an old Piper Cub or something like that, get my license and things like that. Really just take to the skies. I got over my fear of heights really, really young, and being in heavy industry, there's nothing more than being, a couple 100 feet off the ground with nothing more than a tether line hanging off the side of a silo or something like that. But it's one of those what I would call like a bucket list thing. It doesn't scare me, but I'd really love to get into the technical side of it and actually go and do it. It's just one of those deals, you know how it is, where it's just time, really. Same thing with ham radio. I find myself where I love ham radio, but with the 9 to 5 and everything else going on in life, it's just a couple hours on the weekend, and that's about it.
Yeah, I hear you. I know what you mean. Well, I always tell people that they're considering it to at least go and take a ride and maybe get enough instruction just so you can get to the point where you're solo. Like I say, people solo anywhere from 8 to 10 hours typically. And once you've flown by yourself, you get your solo license, and you can say you've done it. You can say you've piloted an aircraft, and there's not many people that can say that. I mean, it's a distinct, very small minority of human beings who have ever had the privilege of piloting an aircraft. I mean, think about it. You know, it hasn't been around that long, and there's not that many pilots, and you know, few are the ones who have done it. And you know, for 10 hours, for the cost of 10 hours of instruction, I don't know what it is these days, but it's not a commitment to go through the whole program. You know, 40 hours of instruction to get a private license, or 20 hours of dual to get the recreational certificate. But yeah, you know, you should do it. I mean, and if you get to that point and you figure it's not for you, well, you know, you haven't lost much, you know. So yeah, give it a try.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is K1QAR. And I've been driving an airplane for a little over 5,000 hours, little ones, you know. And it's nothing special. But if you're going to do the flyboy thing, after you take your first, you know, maybe 3 or 4 hours of dual at some flighted school airplane, if you decide you want to keep on going, don't piss away your money on a you know, rented airplane with the instructors. It's much more cost effective to go find yourself a little putt-putt airplane and buy it for 20 or 30 grand if you got that kind of cash. And it's much more cost effective to get your license, and then you can fly around and dodge the airliners and dodge the thunderstorms and pick up a load of ice and have all the fun that flying an airplane entails. Is this thing working?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's working.
K1QAR, if I didn't say that.
Yeah, how you doing? Good afternoon. Well, all I can say to that is what my old flight instructor told me many, many times. He said, if it flies, floats, or fornicates, it's cheaper to rent.
I missed that. What about renting?
He said if it flies, floats, or fornicates, it's cheaper to rent.
Oh yeah, to start out, it is easier. But if you decide you want to, you know, actually get a pilot's license, which means, you know, spending about 40 hours up there with no visible means of support, you know, doing this maneuver and that maneuver and whatnot. Because, I mean, you're going to get a pilot's license. I mean, presumably you're going to use it to do some, you know, going back and forth between some places that are inconvenient by car or something. I mean, you're going to put it to use. Otherwise, like you say, rent it.
Yeah, I come close to buying an airplane a couple of times. But the truth is, what I found out is I really couldn't afford to own an airplane, even if somebody gave it to me. I mean, last time I checked, which was a number of years ago, it was $300 a month just to tie down an airplane outside at an airport that's you know, an hour and a half away from here.
$358 a month. Yep.
Where the heck are you tying it down? Westchester?
Huh. How about that?
I mean, come on. I was paying $50 a month, and it hadn't gone up that much for a tie down outside. You know, $300 is in a fancy hangar with polished floors back in the day.
It should be in a hangar with marble floors.
Well, all right. How about that terrazzo? What do they call it? Yeah, they call it terrazzo. It's got the little steel things going, the aluminum back and forth, you know, that they use for fancy dance places.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, you know, a little rural airport, I'll have to ask Don what he charges out here for tie downs, but it ain't that much. It ain't 300, it ain't 100, it's probably 50 or 75 bucks. But I will say this, that friggin' gas, you're looking at $5 a gallon, maybe 6. So the gas is twice as expensive as car gas.
Yeah, the $300 a month quote was at Warrenton Fauquier Airport, about an hour and a half out of D.C.
Now, is there W3MMR? Sorry, is there a difference between the fuel that you run, say, Clark, in your airplane? Then, I mean, you don't run like jet fuel, but like you have to run high octane fuel.
Yeah, it's 100 octane and it's low lead. Not no lead, it's low lead. So one of the reasons why it's so expensive is that's the only industry that uses that type of fuel. You know, not like the car, the car gas that the refineries can crank out in the gigagallons or barrels. But, you know, they have to make the separate 100 octane, low lead, but not no lead, just for general aviation. So that's one of the reasons why it's so expensive.
Aviation fuel, yes. Aviation fuel still has a lead content.
How much, has it gone up a lot? I mean, or has it always been about, that, always about double automotive fuel?
It's not double. It depends upon where you go. Some of it's, more expensive and less. I mean, like if you go to Teterboro, for example, in New Jersey, they just charge ridiculous amounts for fuel. But that's their way of saying we don't want small planes here.
Now, wait a minute. I mean, so the place is called Millionaire. They also have a Millionaire at in Hartford. Not Bradley, but the downtown airport. Millionaire. Not so bad. But it does help to be a millionaire. But you can get the light sport with those road tax engines that burn car gas. I mean, if you want to get up in the air, if you want to get your sorry butt up in the air and you don't need to fly IFR at night, hauling passengers, you get the light sport, and you get a light sport airplane.
There you go. If anybody wants to get into aviation and do it at the lowest possible cost, talk to Ted. Something kind of scary about that.
Yeah, I mean, but your dispatch reliability goes way down because you can't fly instruments and you can't fly at night. And, I'm driving CEOs back and forth to Tennessee through tropical storms, so... I got the bonanza. I'm paying through the nose for the gas, but I'm learning what the CEO is thinking before it hits the stock market. So it pays for the airplane.
Boy, you are the Nancy Pelosi of aviation. Well, yeah, but with the light sport category, you can't fly at night, you can't fly into controlled airspace. That means no big airports. The planes only can lift so much weight, so they tend to be limited, and it's not like you're going to be you and your 3 friends are going to go anywhere, and they can't go any faster than, I forget what the maximum speed is, but there are a lot of limitations.
Yeah, but you and a friend can get your butts in the air.
Isn't that so, Clark? What's your license category? Because that's all only reference I have to really anybody that I know having a pilot's license is I met you on the airstrip where the plane was tied down and I got some radios, man. And it was a little like Piper, a little Cessna airplane, a little Apache or whatever it is. And that's what I would imagine like the hobbyist going up, in an airplane. But obviously it's a hell of a lot more involved than what I could ever imagine as far as different level license structure.
I have a legacy kind of license. I have a normal license. I don't have a sport category license. They started that actually right when I was starting my flying lessons, and I mentioned that to my flight instructor, and he wigged out. He said, "Don't ever bring up light sport category again." I'm like, okay. So I did the normal 40-hour thing.
Okay, I got you. W3MMR, testing this streaming stuff. It seems to be working. Well, the recording program seems to be working anyway. I'm recording right now.
So whereabouts in the
Private
D.C.
pilot,
area are
single
you?
engine land.
Sorry, I doubled.
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, whereabouts in the D.C. area are you, you know? Because, I mean, I used to go in and out of College Park before stupid attack by those dumb Arabs. And, you know, you go into College Park, you can take a short walk and get on the T or whatever they call it down there, the subway, and boom, you're in downtown D.C. And that little airport was a sweetheart. You didn't have to pay through the nose. You didn't have to file instruments to get in there. I mean, it was a beauty. But that got, you know, the kibosh got put on that. But anyway, where are you located?
Well, I'm in Herndon, Virginia, and my home base was Leesburg, Godfrey Field, and Leesburg just a little bit out to my northwest here. And College Park was the first airport in the whole country. That's where the Wright brothers demonstrated their 1903 flyer to the Army. That's the site of the first aviation casualty. In fact, Thomas Selfridge, first person to die in an airplane crash, right there at College Park.
Yeah, and I was going in and out of there. I forget why. It was some kind of a deal with these guys. I was flying these guys in and out of there a bunch of times. It was nice. And then when they did the 9/11, I think they still, you know, they kind of gave College Park about a year's grace before they completely closed it down. But you had to, you know, get on the blower and make reservations and all kinds of crap. I mean, it was you could still get in and out of there. But God help you if a thunderstorm got in your way and you weren't, you know, able to land in your window.
I gotta go out on a limb on this. Is there a braking station?